You're claiming you're FBI? I need proof. I already identified myself. My credentials are right here. You can read it from there. That's all you're entitled to. I think you're impersonating a federal agent.
You have exactly 3 seconds to take your hands off me, or your career is over. Those were the sharp, calm words spoken by a federal agent moments before a rookie police officer made the biggest mistake of his life. It was a single foolish choice that would ultimately cost his police department $250,000 and completely end his career before it even really began. Every second of the tense confrontation was captured on a body camera, showing just how fast a simple situation can spiral out of control when an officer lets his ego take over. How exactly did a routine late-night traffic stop escalate into a massive federal standoff, a historic civil rights lawsuit, and a permanently disgraced rookie cop? To understand how this young officer managed to completely blow up his own life in a matter of minutes, we have to rewind the clock to 11:14 p.m. on a quiet, rainy Tuesday night. The rain was coming down steadily, blurring the streetlights on a quiet, dark suburban road. It was past midnight, and the neighborhood was completely asleep. There were no other cars on the road, and the only sound was the steady thump of windshield wipers. This was the exact spot where Officer Tyler was parked, sitting in his patrol car and waiting for something to happen. Tyler was a rookie officer who had finished his probation period just 4 months ago. He was young, full of energy, and incredibly eager to prove himself to his superiors. More than anything, Tyler wanted to make a major drug bust. He constantly dreamed of bringing in a massive haul of illegal substances, believing it would instantly impress his sergeant and earn him the respect of the entire department. He wanted to show everyone that he was not just a typical new guy, but a real detective in the making. That was when he saw it. A sleek, black SUV turned onto the main road and drove past his patrol car. The vehicle was completely clean, and it was moving at a perfect pace, driving exactly the posted speed limit. To an experienced officer, the SUV looked totally normal, just someone heading home late after a long shift. But Officer Tyler was looking for a reason, any reason at all, to pull someone over. He pulled out of the hidden driveway and began to follow the black vehicle closely. He watched the SUV like a hawk, waiting for the slightest mistake. Finally, he got what he wanted. The SUV began to make a right-hand turn. The driver did use their turn signal, but Tyler noticed they clicked it on just a little bit too late. By law, a driver must signal at least 100 feet before making a turn, and Tyler estimated the driver had only signaled about 80 feet before the corner. It was a minor, borderline infraction that most officers would completely ignore, but to Tyler, it was the perfect excuse. He flipped on his flashing red and blue lights, confident that this stop might lead to the big bust he had been praying for. The black SUV slowly and smoothly pulled over to the side of the dark, empty street, and the mood felt completely ordinary, quiet, and deceptively calm. Officer Tyler stepped out of his patrol car, his boots splashing into the puddles on the wet pavement. Instead of walking up to the vehicle with a standard, cautious approach, he intentionally adopted a very aggressive and dominant posture. He kept his hand resting heavily near his firearm and shone his bright flashlight directly into the driver's side mirror to blind the person inside. When he reached the door, he knocked loudly on the glass, demanding that the window be rolled down immediately. Sitting inside the vehicle was Special Agent Marcus Vance of the FBI. Agent Vance was dressed in a sharp, dark suit and was tired, currently driving home after a very long late-night federal operation. He calmly rolled down the window, unaffected by the officer's aggressive behavior. As soon as the window lowered, Tyler did not even introduce himself or explain why he had pulled the vehicle over. Instead, he immediately demanded the driver's identification and began asking a string of probing, invasive questions. He leaned in close, asking roughly, "Where are you coming from at this hour? What do you have inside that big bag in the back seat?" Agent Vance remained entirely polite and professional. He reached over, grabbed his driver's license and handed it directly to the rookie officer. However, because he knew his rights perfectly, Vance politely but firmly declined to answer the extra questions about his personal business, simply stating that he was on his way home. This is the exact moment where the interaction began to go completely wrong. Officer Tyler had a massive ego, and he completely misinterpreted Agent Vance's calm, steady confidence. In Tyler's mind, a regular citizen was supposed to be nervous, shaking, and eager to please a police officer. Because Vance was not intimidated, Tyler took it as a personal insult, viewing the agent's professional boundaries as a form of disrespect, often called contempt of cop. Instead of looking closely at the name on the license or taking a step back to think, the rookie officer let his anger take over. He decided right then and there that he was going to teach this driver a lesson, and he prepared to escalate the situation to a dangerous new level. Officer Tyler leaned even further into the vehicle, his eyes narrowing as he tried to find any reason to take control of the situation. He knew he didn't have a real legal reason to search the car, so he decided to use a classic excuse that many officers use when they want to force their way into a vehicle. He sniffed the air aggressively and claimed that he smelled something highly suspicious coming from the inside of the SUV. He told the driver that the phantom odor gave him all the authority he needed. With a loud, commanding voice, Tyler opened the driver's side door and ordered Agent Vance to step out of the vehicle immediately. He was completely convinced that he was moments away from uncovering a massive secret, and his heart was racing with excitement. Agent Vance did not argue or make any sudden movements. He slowly unbuckled his seatbelt and stepped out of the black SUV into the cool, rainy night air. As he stood up, he made sure to keep his hands completely visible, holding them out at chest height so the rookie officer could see he was not a physical threat. But as he stood there, Vance looked directly at the young officer and spoke in a clear, firm, and steady voice. He said, "Officer, I am not consenting to any searches. I am an active federal agent, and you do not have probable cause." It was a direct legal warning, given by someone who understood the law perfectly, offering the rookie a clear chance to stop before crossing a dangerous legal line. But Officer Tyler was completely driven by his own ego and a massive rush of adrenaline. He was so focused on winning the argument and proving his dominance that he completely ignored the warning. He did not care about the words "federal agent," assuming the driver was just making things up to get out of a ticket. In a split second, Tyler made his fatal mistake. He lunged forward, grabbed Agent Vance's arm with both hands, and aggressively spun him around. He slammed the federal agent against the wet hood of the police cruiser and forced him to spread his legs. Without permission and without any legal right, the reckless rookie began a rough, aggressive pat-down search, completely unaware that he had just broken the law on his own body camera. As Officer Tyler aggressively patted down the driver, his hands moved quickly across the heavy fabric of the dark suit jacket. He was searching for illegal substances, but instead, his fingers brushed against something hard and metallic tucked tightly against the man's belt line. Believing he had finally found his major illegal weapon haul, Tyler roughly pulled open the front of Vance's jacket to reveal the hidden items. His flashlight beam illuminated the object, but it wasn't what the rookie expected at all. Right there, clipped neatly to the belt, was a high-quality government-issued concealed firearm. But right next to the weapon was something even more shocking. A heavy, glittering gold badge that carried the official emblem of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The bold, unmistakable letters spelled out FBI. Instead of freezing and realizing he had made a massive mistake, Tyler completely panicked. His mind could not process the fact that he had actually just assaulted a real federal law enforcement officer. Rather than backing down, apologizing, or trying to fix his error, the rookie's fear took over, causing him to pivot in the worst way possible. He jumped backward, his boots sliding slightly on the wet asphalt, and yanked his own handgun out of its holster. With a voice that cracked with pure panic, Tyler began screaming into his police radio, calling for immediate emergency backup. He loudly claimed to his dispatcher that he had pulled over an armed imposter who was carrying a fake police badge and a hidden gun. The body camera captured the entire chaotic scene with perfect clarity, showing a truly stunning visual contrast between the two men. On one side of the frame was the hysterical rookie officer, his hands shaking violently as he pointed his deadly weapon at an unarmed man, his face twisted with fear and confusion. On the other side of the frame stood Agent Vance, completely still, calm, and stone-faced in the pouring rain. He did not flinch, he did not shout, and he did not show any fear at all. Instead, Vance looked directly into the lens of the officer's blinking body camera, his voice cold and steady as he warned the rookie one final time, saying, "You are violating federal law on camera." The loud, piercing sound of sirens filled the night air as two backup police cruisers came rushing down the dark street. They swerved around the corner and screeched to a sudden halt, their tires splashing water everywhere as they parked at angled positions to block the road. The flashing red and blue lights illuminated the falling rain like a chaotic disco. A veteran police sergeant quickly opened his car door and stepped out into the storm. Because of Officer Tyler's frantic and panicked radio calls, the sergeant was fully expecting to walk into an extremely dangerous shootout with a violent criminal or a cartel member. He had his hand resting firmly on his own weapon, his eyes scanning the area wildly as he prepared to defend his young rookie from what he assumed was a deadly threat. However, as the sergeant walked closer to the two men, He stopped in his tracks and began to assess the actual situation. He was a highly experienced officer who had spent decades on the streets, and he immediately recognized that something was completely wrong with this picture. He looked over at Agent Vance, who was still standing perfectly still, entirely calm, and dressed in a high-quality professional suit that did not look like the clothing of a street criminal. The sergeant then looked down at the hood of the car, where the official federal credentials and the heavy gold FBI badge were sitting clearly under the beam of the flashlights. In an instant, the veteran sergeant put all the pieces of the puzzle together, and his face went completely pale. The color drained from his skin as he realized that his rookie officer had not caught a criminal, but had instead illegally detained an active federal agent. Right then, the entire narrative of the night completely flipped upside down. This was no longer a dangerous traffic stop involving an imposter. It was a massive legal disaster happening in real time. The sergeant's focus immediately shifted away from Vance and directly onto his own panicked rookie. With a voice full of absolute authority and deep worry, the sergeant stepped directly between the two men. He looked straight at Officer Tyler and ordered him to holster his weapon immediately and step completely away from the scene. The sergeant knew that every extra second Tyler kept his gun drawn was making the upcoming legal nightmare even worse for the entire police department. With Officer Tyler finally stepping away, the veteran sergeant immediately took complete control of the scene, desperately trying to undo the damage his rookie had caused. He walked up to Agent Vance, lowering his voice to a soft, respectful tone, and began profusely apologizing for the entire situation. He explained that Tyler was brand new to the department, had made a horrible error in judgment, and was clearly overwhelmed by the circumstances. However, Agent Vance was not moved by the excuses. He stood tall in the pouring rain, remaining entirely professional but completely ice-cold. He did not yell or lose his temper, which made his presence even more intimidating. Vance looked directly at the sergeant and firmly demanded his government-issued firearm and his credentials back immediately. As he slid his heavy gold FBI badge back into his suit pocket, he calmly informed the sergeant that a formal federal complaint was already being drafted and would be sent directly to the chief of police by the morning. He made it crystal clear that an apology on a dark street corner was not going to make this massive constitutional violation disappear. As the sergeant continued to talk with the federal agent, trying to smooth things over, the body camera perspective captured a powerful moment. The view cut over to Officer Tyler, who was now standing completely alone by the concrete curb. The heavy rain soaked through his uniform shirt, but he did not even seem to notice the cold water. The adrenaline that had been pumping through his veins just moments ago completely vanished, leaving him feeling empty and terrified. A look of total shock and realization washed slowly over his young face. For the first time all night, the truth of what he had done finally sank into his mind. He had not made a major drug bust, and he was not going to get a promotion from his sergeant. Instead, he had just illegally detained, threatened, and assaulted a real federal officer on a crystal-clear digital recording. He watched from a distance as his career goals crumbled to pieces in front of him, fully realizing that his foolish actions in the dark had just ruined his entire future in law enforcement. The dark night eventually came to an end, but the nightmare for the police department was only just beginning. Because the incident involved a federal officer, the Federal Bureau of Investigation immediately launched a formal inquiry into the local police department's entire operation and training practices. They wanted to know how an officer with a badge and a gun could be allowed on the streets with such a complete lack of knowledge about basic civil rights. At the exact same time, the police department's Internal Affairs Division opened their own urgent investigation. The very first thing the investigators did was pull the digital files containing Officer Tyler's body cam footage from that rainy Tuesday night. They sat in a dark room watching the video over and over again, horrified by the rookie's aggressive behavior and his complete disregard for the law. As the investigators dug deeper into Tyler's short history with the department, a much larger and more troubling pattern began to unravel. They didn't just look at the night he pulled over the federal agent. They went back and reviewed every single traffic stop and arrest Tyler had made during his 4 months off probation. What they discovered was shocking. The review revealed that this was not a one-time mistake caused by nerves. Instead, Tyler had a consistent habit of fabricating probable cause on his previous stops. He had frequently lied about smelling illegal substances or seeing suspicious movements just to force regular citizens out of their cars so he could conduct illegal searches. He had been playing a dangerous game for months, bending the rules to make himself look like a superstar cop, and his encounter with Agent Vance had finally brought his illegal tactics into the light. Once this pattern of misconduct was exposed on camera, the department knew they could not protect him. The chief of police immediately placed Tyler on strict administrative leave, stripping him of his badge and gun while the final paperwork was processed. However, behind closed doors, the city's lawyers and police chiefs gave Tyler a harsh choice. The evidence against him was so overwhelming that he was guaranteed to be publicly fired, which would permanently ruin his chances of ever working in law enforcement again. To avoid a massive public scandal, Tyler chose to sign a forced resignation letter, quitting his job in disgrace just days before the official firing orders could be signed. Even though Officer Tyler had resigned in disgrace, the legal consequences for his actions were far from over. Special Agent Marcus Vance decided to take the matter to federal court, filing a major civil rights lawsuit against the rookie officer and the entire city. The lawsuit focused on severe violations of the Fourth Amendment, which is the part of the Constitution that firmly protects everyday citizens from unreasonable searches and seizures by the government. The city's legal team looked at the clear body cam footage and realized they had absolutely no chance of winning the case in front of a jury. They knew that a long, highly publicized trial would only bring more negative attention to the town and expose how poorly trained their new officers truly were. To prevent a public disaster, the city leaders quickly agreed to settle the lawsuit completely out of court. They authorized a massive payout of exactly $250,000, a huge sum of money that had to be paid directly out of the pockets of the local taxpayers. This entire unfortunate situation serves as a powerful and unforgettable lesson for law enforcement officers everywhere. It provides a clear breakdown of exactly how a total lack of emotional control, mixed with a complete disregard for constitutional rights, can completely destroy a person's career in under 5 minutes. Officer Tyler had a badge, a uniform, and the trust of his community, but he threw it all away because he let his personal ego and pride guide his actions instead of his official training. He wanted to look tough and important, but instead he broke the very laws he had sworn to protect and uphold. For viewers who watch bodycam footage regularly, it highlights the vital importance of the rules that protect our freedom every single day. Ego or safety? Let me know in the comments below if you think the rookie got what he deserved, or if you think the department should have given him a second chance to learn from his mistakes. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more detailed breakdown analysis of real police encounters and legal dramas just like this one. Thank you so much for watching, stay safe, and I will see you all on the very next one.